Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans.
They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
This episode is brought to you by Columbia Sportswear. It's snowing again, and that wind chill is killer. But you're not worried about that because you shop the Omni Heat Infinity Collection. It's warmth perfected with tiny gold dots that reflect your body heat inside and protect you from the cold outside. No snow or chilly temps can stop you now. Go out anyway. Shop the Omni Heat Infinity Collection now at Columbia.com/infinity.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day. And that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Apple Gift Card is a practical gift that unlocks a world of entertainment and fun. You can send it via email or give a physical card to your loved ones. Your friends and family can spend it on their favorite Apple services, including Apple subscriptions. Apple Gift Card can be used to buy all things Apple: products, accessories, apps, games, movies, TV shows, iCloud Plus, and more. Visit apple.com for details and to send Apple Gift Cards to your friends and family this holiday season.
Anything to shake this mood I'm in. My football team's got me drinking.
Back at it again with another loss, with no goals.
What's your energy level, Cody?
It's not good. Dark days, gentlemen. We are the KC Soccer Journal. This is the Shades of Blue Soccer Show. I'm Cody. We've got Thad Bell here. And we've got our guest, Zachary Cobb, to help us wallow in our own self-pity.
Thank you for having me out, regardless of circumstances. It's
of
nice
course.
to be here.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
So, we don't have a rundown for this, but...
We have a laydown.
As the team did. No new sponsor this week. We didn't realize the power our sponsors were wielding.
I really think you should have just, gave a freebie to Sweat Be Gone because apparently it works really well.
Sweat Be Gone worked very well. He is no longer, Ben Sweat is no longer with the team, but that didn't seem to help very much last night. Alan Pulido came back, and that also didn't seem to help very much last night. Zach, tell us how you're feeling right now. Get us going off on this conversation.
Get us going on. Hey, my energy was really good going into last night. I was feeling pretty good about it.
I was so happy. It felt like it was the night.
Thought we did some, decent things in Philadelphia. We're coming. We're gonna, make something happen, and it just never came together at all. Unpopular opinion. I don't think the defense is that bad. I actually like our new additions in defense. I really like Rosero in the back.
Yeah.
And I think the most frustrating part about it is that Colorado is not good. They're bad. They're really bad. I meant to look up his name, number 5 for Colorado.
Yeah.
But I know, but that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm not saying that's exactly what I'm saying, though, is that it's not like, oh, we played this really good team. It didn't quite come together. That's a bummer. It's like they're so bad. And so to not be able to get a result against them, it really casts a dark cloud on the season. And I got a really funny text late last night with someone I'm close with, and she just said, they look like they need relationship counseling. And it was just like this team where the individual pieces – you can see the talent, you can see how they're strong, but then they just weren't melding together at all. It was not coming together. The interplay was not happening at all. And then just the individual mistakes, which I'm sure we'll get into, but players that we know can do better aren't. And I'm not is this what it's like being a parent, where it's just like, I love you and I know you can do better, but you're not, and you're just driving me crazy right now. It's like, I love you and you're driving me nuts right now.
And you see all of the good in them.
Yeah.
And like, you know, you see why you have belief that they could and should do better, and you just watch them shoot themselves in the foot.
That was one of the best descriptions I think I've ever heard, Zach.
Yeah.
That was like
That
being a
was
parent.
astute.
Like, you know, a 3-year-old. Okay, I know you can behave better than that. Okay, I know you can actually eat your food. I know you can go to the bathroom, but apparently you can't today.
You're just choosing not to. It's making me look bad.
And SKC just shit their pants.
Comes full circle. Yeah.
You said that unpopular opinion about the defense. At this point, the last 2 games with this two new center backs that we have, one goal allowed in 2 games. I know Colorado's not good, but they did look pretty good last night outside of that one. It was that one play.
Yeah, and well, even last night, that play, I am not here to talk about the ref today.
Yeah.
I am not, but they were fouled on the way to that
was a
goal.
foul.
I feel like, but I'm not going to make that a thing.
Yeah, we're not going to do that podcast blaming on the refs after how bad the team
But
is.
I said unpopular opinion because I would like to push back a little bit on the idea. I'd be like, we just need to throw this whole team in the garbage.
Right.
And we'll be like, I don't think that. And I also think that, I do think there's better days this season for this squad. But boy, last night was bad.
I know, and it was supposed to be the first game of when things were returning to normal, and it was all set up against a bad team at home. Johnny's birthday. It was just all set up and ready to go, and that's what makes this hurt even more.
And it did feel like a situation. Sometimes you get that in the. It felt like that first game of the season where teams are kind of rusty, and maybe in a lot of ways that's exactly what that was. You have players that haven't quite been able to intermingle like you'd like to be in full form. So it's not like we did get our guys back, but a lot of guys, they've been on the bench for a while. We've gotten a lot of new pieces. So that all is a thing. It doesn't make the performance okay, but looking forward, I do think there's better times for this team. But boy, it's just, like Eric Tommy's just,
Oh my God.
the man's just off. It's just off. Like the decision making, I don't know if he feels like he has to put the whole team on his back. Sometimes it feels like he's trying to do too much. And it's just like his decision making process and also I would love to see some deep stats on this. I feel like we get blocked a lot.
Block shots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing us, like your defenders' shins are going to just be blasted.
And I feel like that's just part of what we've talked about before is just, the quality of chances is not all there. And so we get these shots, but it's just because Daniel is trying to shoot directly through someone's legs.
Well, and just going with that, Sporting had 18 shots last night, 2 on target. The rest were either 6 was off target and the rest was blocked.
Yeah. What one word descriptor does Opta have for that? Bad.
Sucks.
Yeah. And then we're coming off that other home game where we had some almost MLS high for a game, like 20 some odd shots, and nothing came from them.
30, I think, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it must have been something more ridiculous, I'm sure.
All right, so as much as I want to be down on them, I'll try to flip to the other side for a second because I always got to be the opposite side of whatever everybody else is.
That's contrarian. I love him. I love this guy.
Okay, so as bad as they were, they outshot the team. They created chances. Their expected goals was not good. It was 0.82, but Colorado's was only 0.52. The defense did play well. They dominated possession, passing, and all these other stats that if you looked at without seeing the score, you'd have said that would have been a draw or a win for that team. There are at least those positives, as bad as they looked, as bad as they played, as getting Pulido back and having not been really able to connect and build that chemistry with everybody. Johnny coming off, not having, he played 90 minutes, but he's not 90-minute fit. There's still a lot of those, and Tommy over trying, doing everything. If they can settle down, if they can relax, they can pick some teams apart for a change. But they've always struggled against teams that, I don't want to say bunker, but play that compact defense. They almost always struggle against that. And when they're struggling in every other frame of the game, it's just going to be that much worse.
Get your positives out of here.
Piss off.
Yeah, I do actually agree with that. I think the pieces are there. I think they have trouble creating space. I also had a complaint last night that has, even when we've been really good, this is just an SKC era complaint I've always had. I feel like we are poor at using, when other teams make mistakes, we don't make them pay. Mm-hmm. And it's like you just saw last night, like, it was a foul, but whatever. It was a mistake. That team pounced on something and they made us pay for it. I feel like we never do that. We were just watching some of the game before we started this, and I saw the goalie basically kicked it to one of our guys in the box. Like they gave us the St. Louis SC special in the box, and we couldn't put it. So it's stuff like that. I wish we would be able to pounce on things like that, and that's frustrating. But generally, when I'm looking to the rest of the season, I agree with you. I think the pieces are there. Maybe my friend was right. Maybe they need relationship counseling, but I think maybe they just keep working together and get that interplay going, because I think they can open it up and score some goals. And if our defense is solid, then it's all there for them, but we'll see.
Let's listen to Peter Vermees after the game. It was a quote that's already been going around Twitter that people are not happy with, but this was Daniel Sperry asking Peter a question after the game.
Peter, after this match, where are you in assessing where this team is at? Are the alarm bells ringing yet?
I'd like to score some goals. I think that's the biggest thing. I think even if I look at the game, I think the first half was kind of back and forth, a little even. Second half, we were all over them, but not enough high-quality chances. So at the end, we don't get the result. You get burned on the play that they scored, but we have to score 2-3 with all the domination that we had in the game. So
I'd like to score some goals. Me too, Peter. Me too.
I think we could all agree with that.
And that's obviously, there's just been, he's so blunt, and the last couple of weeks he's had some quotes that I think have upset some people that are just maybe not good looks. But
yeah, I think people are a little silly with like the quotes after the game, because there's all these people like, why aren't these reporters asking this or this or this? And someone say, hey, we do ask him. We get kind of canned answers, which I actually think he is pretty good at answering questions more honestly than most coaches are. But I think there's this false premise that people are looking for relief from an answer in a press conference. And it's like, if you're looking to feel better about a result from a question and answer in a press conference, then you're not going to find it. And the idea that that's some big deal, that's like answer these questions and it'll be better. It's like, let's just not play these silly games. It's like, and also he was right.
Speaking of people not asking the right questions, Thad asked one. He was trying to get in there. He wasn't the most confident question, and Peter smelled it a little bit, and just you can tell how angry he was.
Is there anything as the coach that you can help them work on to do that?
We do it every day. We do it all the time. It's putting them in the situations it's putting them in those situations, to make those decisions. It's all of that, but you got to be able to do it in a game.
We do it all the time. He was not happy with you there.
What was wrong with my question, man?
No, nothing was wrong with it.
He said it wasn't confident. I'm trying to make it a question that will be answered. It's not confrontational. Like, why do you suck? I mean, come on. I can't ask that and get an answer.
Is there anything as the coach that you can help them work on?
You should try to do that thing like some people are saying.
No. Right. I used to do that. Long time ago. Yeah. I've done that, and then I was like, I realized how bad that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. That is a feeling I get where some people maybe want reporters or someone to ask tougher questions in these press conferences, but I don't know.
And this is not like to protect, like, hey, ask the questions, ask whatever, be professional, whatever. But people seem to be laboring under the idea that they're going to feel better after the answer. And it's like, no, whatever the situation is, what the situation is. Now, sometimes they can be enlightening or interesting, but I do think it's just like another thing people are looking to be outraged about. I just think there's enough real things to get mad about on the internet or in real life.
Yeah.
And people like going out of their way to make new things feels a little silly.
Well, and I would be more than happy to hear a question that would get us a different answer, but it's 7 games in now. They've not scored. How many times can we ask, what
What's
can you
wrong
do
with the
better to
offense?
score?
Right.
What can you do better to score? I mean, those questions have been asked. We ask them again. We ask them in a different way. We
asked Shallowy last week in training.
Yeah. That's why I'm trying like a different way to like, softball it in there to like, maybe he's going to open up a little bit or something, but
there's a lot of very capable sports journalists and writers in the,
and we're not those.
In the
That's what you're saying. Thank you, man.
That is not true. That are kind of in the ecosystem that ask plenty of good questions, and I think it's a pretty healthy ecosystem. I think the team takes tough questions and they answer them like teams usually do, and we all do the dance next week and next month and next year.
So if Vermees was not giving the quotes that people wanted to hear, I think Johnny is saying the right things, and so let's listen to that song.
We haven't been good enough up until this point. The shots we're having, not really clear shots. There's men in the way. Every shot's been getting blocked, so it's up to us to find a different way to create an opportunity for someone else. And don't know what it is. If we're taking too long on the ball, we're not playing the extra pass, or we're playing the pass when we should take a shot. Just nothing is clicking right now, and it's not frustrating anymore. I can't really use a word that I'm thinking right now, but it's not good enough, and it has to change.
It has to change.
There was men in the way.
Yeah, right on cue. We were talking about the blocks.
It's not the shot we wanted to take.
Yes, men in the way.
I really just wanted to play that so we could listen to his accent. That was the main key there.
That's amazing.
I should pull the one out from actually a couple weeks ago. That one was even better.
This episode is brought to you by Google Pixel, the official fan phone of the NBA and WNBA. The new Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro are built different. How? Take the Audio Magic Eraser tool. It helps block out distracting crowd noise so your play-by-play commentary sounds crystal clear. The only phone engineered by Google brings out the audio you care about so your videos sound as crisp as they look. Learn more at googlestore.com/pixelnba. Audio Magic Eraser requires Google Photos app. May not work on all audio elements.
Okay, so Eric Tommy is one thing that we touched on it a little bit. You said he was off. I have another syllable of that word to add, awful.
Man, Cody's bringing something today. He's really bringing an energy. Like, I'm trying to enjoy my weekend here. No, and not that we have to pretend that sporting's good, but you're bringing it right now.
We talked about how we went into that match. Last week I was like, fuck me for being a fan. I'm sorry that I watch this team and I enjoy it and I have fun and I want to find the positives and all of that. And I was so excited going into this match. It all felt right. I was at an engagement party that I made them all put the game on, a bunch of casuals, MLS casuals.
It's the ecstasy and the agony.
Yeah. And it just, I've done everything a good fan should do, a loyal fan all year long. And this was just such a gut punch. Watching Rubio put the ball in the back of the net just was an absolute gut punch. And the worst part of it, where I stand right now, is like, you can be Vermees out, Bliss out, want to get rid of Jake Reed, but like, I don't see anything that this team can do that none of that is going to make Sporting better next week. And that's what really hurts. That's why this sucks so much. That, like, you could change all of these things and we're still going to be bad here, it feels like.
So don't change anything is what you're saying.
So you maybe do feel like this is who we are. This is who we are, and we just need to buckle in for this ride the rest of the year.
To an extent, yes. I see everything you guys see. We were talking about, Pulido comes in and you can just instantly see the quality. Every touch he has on the ball, you can see that it is there. There's reason to believe he's going to get back into the speed of the game. Gotti Kinda's coming back. The defense looks fine. Rosero looks good. But I just, how many games in are we now? This was 8 games, 9 games?
Or 8.
7.
Yeah, we can't keep saying that forever. And the offense, like we had the front 3 guys out there. That's what I was just raring to go for last night, was the front 3 was out there, and we still just looked like we couldn't really do anything.
No. You do remember I've been cautioning all along that these guys coming back off of injury may A, never come back completely, or B, it may take a long time for them to get back to what that form they were.
Right.
I was actually a little positive about the form I saw Pulido in last night.
Yeah.
Not that he's back to what he was by any means, but he did some very good things.
I agree.
He there was actually at least a couple times where they connected with him in the box, and he had one really good chance. I think Daniel played it into him,
And it went right to the keeper.
Pulido in form puts that in a corner.
Yeah.
Pulido not in form puts it at the keeper. It's
So this also goes to a thing that's bigger than Sporting Kansas City, and it would be interesting for like our listeners to think about as well. It's like, what are you like as a sports fan? Because if you're a sports fan long enough, it doesn't matter the team, the league, you're going to run into this situation. Like soccer's came in a little late for me as a love. Like I grew up as a Chiefs fan, and that teams in the 90s that like kept being the best team in the league, and then they get punted in the playoffs, and then they were literally awful in the early 2000s. They're like the Herm Edwards years.
Oh yeah.
And it's one of those things where there's a really weird balance between not wanting to only like a team when they're good, but also telling an organization that this is unacceptable, and that balance. I'm not at that like what Chiefs fans did when they were flying the flags.
Right, yeah.
About how bad this. I'm not there at all. I think this team needs some time to maybe get healthier, gel more, work more together. I do like the pieces. I think they're having problems playing together. And I think that is something that can come with time. And luckily we're in a league where you have that time, where the regular season barely matters. They can kind of round into, hey, best case scenarios, they kind of find themselves, they round into some form, they sneak into the playoffs, and maybe they'd be peaking during the playoffs. That's like the dream scenario at this point. And that's a very possible thing. But
almost did it last year.
Another thing that's tough about this is when you just look at the rest of the league. Like, I don't know if anybody saw that first Seattle goal last night.
Banger.
I was like, what's that like? People just doing amazing things on the soccer field.
Yeah. David has talked, we talked after that game about if there was one Sporting KC player that would have started for Seattle in that game. And if I look around our roster right now, let's just say the starting 11 from last night, there are 4 spots where I feel like that's good enough. Like the player in that spot is good enough for where we want Sporting Kansas City to be. And I think the front 3 are probably there. And then I'm giving it to Danny Rosero.
The 3 guys who didn't score are good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but
is
I gotta
Johnny
give you shit
Russell
for that.
not like good enough for Major League Soccer? Or is Johnny Russell not good enough to be on a successful team in Major League Soccer?
But then there's a variation of that when we take someone from our team and then they go to a really good team and start and Sanchez. And I mean, even when Kellen Rowe was with us for a year, then he just went right back to Seattle and was playing very regularly for them. And it's just kind of like a weird dynamic.
That's the tattoo power he has.
Tattoo power.
He has a tattoo of Seattle.
Really?
Yeah.
Is he from there?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Which is why it was really awkward when he was playing for Kansas City, and it's like you see the Seattle tattoo popping out on I think it's his left arm, but it's one of his arms. It's like on the back of it. It's the skyline of Seattle.
Amazing.
I meant to read this tweet earlier from Tate Steinleggy. It just kind of sums up where I'm at the moment. There's a whole thread here he did. You should go check it out. But this last tweet here, for me, certainly he has questions to answer, and I always appreciate his candor. But for me, ownership bears the brunt of this. The club feels faceless, a team playing in KC rather than the embodiment of KC. And that's a massive problem and shift from where things were. And you were talking about the Chiefs. For me, it was the Royals. I was a supporter of the Royals when they were an embarrassment and the ownership wasn't even trying to win, like openly not even trying to win. And I guess the difference here is just we saw that what was sold to us of this new Sporting KC team was something different than all of that. They had built a covenant with the fans in the Cauldron, and they had an identity in the city, and I think it seems like that's gone stale. We're getting away from it. The last time we had you on, when we talked about the Cauldron, we talked about a lot of this, but I do think that there's something from the top all the way that has been lacking, and something's got to change.
Yeah, that is interesting. It is difficult to put my finger on because I abstractly agree, but then when I look at specifics, I'm not sure exactly
I know.
what. It is a very difficult thing to really capture. I do dislike that there's no real face of the team beyond Peter. Publicly in a way, because I kind of tweeted out of nowhere last night. It's like, where's Mike Illig right now? And because he had that, Sam McDowell did a really good interview with him, and there was it was a theme that there's a real changing of the guard. But even when like they're doing well, like I wish there was kind of more of that voice, that Clark Hunt-esque voice. Like Clark Hunt will drop in every now and then, and kind of say this or that. And I just don't know. It seems like we're in a league where a lot of teams are doing a lot of really interesting things, and we're not one of them.
It seems like Jake Reed would be the only other face that they could mention as like someone else beyond that, and that's the one for me that I would like to see a change. When I look back at Media Day now, and his tall ass standing there around all these people talking about how much the $1 million+ that they spent on changing the Shield Club so that they could make more money out of it, just makes my skin crawl at this point.
Okay.
I don't know why I shamed him for being tall, but he's just so tall. That's what when I think of that moment, he just stands above everyone.
Jake Reed is very tall. I remember giving him crap because when they had that kind of sky view cam, I said, you just want to install a camera so everybody else can watch the game like you do.
Yeah, that went away too, didn't it?
Yeah, it was only like a 1 year thing. I thought it was great. I loved the visuals of it.
I don't even think it went the whole year.
That's very possible.
I could be wrong, but I just don't really remember it being used that much. It was
I remember when I did see it, it was great.
Yeah, it was because it was a cool shot. It's like players running down the field and the camera following them as they ran down the field. I think like one time the ball hit it or something though, the wire.
And that was probably just it.
Yeah, that was probably it. I don't know. There's all kinds of little things they've done that only lasted 1 or 2 or short periods of time. All right, so again, I always got to be the contrarian a little bit. What do you want Jake Reed to do? Other than shrink?
I don't know. If I knew, I would be applying for that job.
But that's always the issue. Like Jake, he's not as much personality as Rob Heineman was. He's not out there in front like doing beer corners all the time or chugging beers with fans as much.
Free beer. There you go. It's a good start. Jake, give me some free beer, and then we can talk.
Well, I'll let him know, and I'm sure he listens to this pod. If he doesn't, he should. Robo, Patrick, make sure he gets to listen to this.
I do think when it comes to Jake Reed, it's like he doesn't have a hand in the soccer portion. I mean, in the on the field portion.
Don't want him to.
Oh, exactly. But it's saying if we were winning, then nobody would really have much bad things to say about Jake Reed right now. I pretty much believe that. So it's kind of tough to. So that's why I more so point to a figure that's like more. It would be interesting. It would be nice if there was a face that was more so over the entire organization. And again, I don't have a great answer to what you just said. Like, what do you want them to say? But
well, I think people would say Peter Vermees is that guy that is almost over the entire organization. Obviously, not the front office type stuff, but yeah, that's the one. And that logic that you were using there, I think, is why so many people do point the finger at Vermees. And yeah, the way they salvaged that last season, I think that was just enough for them that it was like, all right, Vermees is still the man. We're safe now. They got through those dark days. He'll now we get the next 5 years of just improving. We'll get these guys back. And now that it obviously does not look good. I don't think that had they not signed him that he would be going to get fired this year. I don't necessarily think that that's true, but the optics of this 5-year deal obviously do not look good at all.
Totally agree. It was bad timing in that regard. They played through 60% of the season last year being mediocre to bad, and all of a sudden you got into players that for the two positions that they were lacking from the DPs that were injured, and all of a sudden they played better, and they almost sneaked into the playoffs. That kind of proved that, he was right all along, except now.
Well, if you're the guys who are making the decision of, is Vermees the guy that can do this for us, then he did exactly what almost, I guess, because they didn't make the playoffs, but I mean, the way they did everything that they needed them to do. They signed 2 guys, season was turned around, and they were like, all right, 5 more years.
There does seem to be a frustrating thing. I'm also a like a Borussia Dortmund fan, and I was reading some stuff online, which is I wouldn't recommend to anyone. About they had a pretty bad loss to Munich a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah,
and there was a fan talking about it, and they're like, it wasn't that bad. If they hadn't given up those 2 goals really early, it would have been fine. and I was just thinking to be like, yeah, that's the game. It's like you can't say that that like they gave up those goals, and like that's the whole thing. It's like I think there is some of that with the organization sometimes. It's like we're just like a little unlucky for this if this hadn't happened and this hadn't happened, and now it's like 2017 is now 2023, and I feel like that's been happening since then. And some people say sooner than that. It just feels like they're always trying to get credit for stuff that doesn't quite happen. It's like, we tried this crazy signing over the off season. It's like, okay, I don't know what you want me to do with that. I'd really like to win again.
Yeah,
we spent a record amount of money, and he's only played 30 games and scored well in those 30 games, more or less.
Yeah, and I'm big on Pulido, and some of it obviously, like, there has been unlucky elements to this run, to previous runs, but and that's very true. But also, it's like, that's showbiz, baby. Like, that's sports. That's part of the deal. We have to try and. That happens to other teams too, and they seem, and I see a lot of other teams because I have MLS Apple whatever package, and I watch other MLS teams, and they seem to do really neat things every week. I was like, I feel like our guys can't do that.
Of course, you're drawn to the ones that do really neat things, and they're doing it to the teams that don't really do really neat things too. So,
whatever.
Just trying to balance it out a little bit, man. It's
yeah.
But. Like earlier, you said, you're a fan of teams that have sucked in the past. I've been fans of teams that have been dominant for a decade and then terrible for a decade. And, I'm a St. Louis Blues fan. They finally won a Stanley Cup in their first time in however long, a few years ago.
Sports comes for us all.
It does. And
Earthquake.
It's amazing how it goes in cycles. And you can say, oh, this team's never been bad. And all you can do is say, yet, right? They will be,
Or it's like, you weren't around, but we were really bad in this time.
But some of these new teams, like, Seattle's had an amazing run, and they did the whole CONCACAF Champions thing, yay, and then got spanked in World Cup, or Club World Cup.
Club World Cup, yeah.
But good for them. But in that same season, they didn't make the playoffs for the first time. It does come around. That whole cycle does go through.
Yeah,
the question is,
MLS will come for you.
Major League.
Yeah, but in every sport, in every league, you can say that. Even in the Premier League, where for a while it was the top 4 teams were always going to be there, but now that's a lot more questionable. That top 4 became kind of a top 5, top 6, and for a while it was looking like Man U might even go down. It's like Everton's like in danger now.
Yeah.
Some of these teams that were always going to be top 4, top 6, even
Everton
them
survived on like the last day of the season last year, I think.
And I'm gonna get some hate for this. I'm gonna get some hate for this next one. I will say that there is a lot of our fan base that are also KU basketball fans, and they don't know.
What does this mean? I'm a KU basketball fan.
No. It means if you're primarily a KU basketball fan, you don't know.
Used to dominance.
Yeah, you don't know this.
Because KU is really good at basketball.
Sure, but you don't really know this life, and that's part of it. And there's a big percentage of fans that are like big time KU basketball fans, so that's kind of a thing in the world.
Yeah, but aren't a lot of them also? They were Chiefs fans in the early 2000s and Royals fans. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they weren't.
And probably so.
But that's the question for me is, how did I segment those so differently? Is it just because I've seen Sporting win an MLS Cup?
So this goes back to our talk about, what's going on with the organization. I do remember, there were such golden times in like 2011, 2012, 2013. There was just this new team. I remember, for me, it was just so much fun. The league was a little bit smaller. Things were a little bit different. The players were different. It was I just remember saying, we need to enjoy these golden times because it's not really going to happen like this. And that wasn't just wins, losses, but that's like, it's very hard for a professional sports organization to exist and also feel like your neighborhood hangout. And that's exactly what it was. Like, those were both those things. So maybe some of that is a failure of the organization to scale that feeling, but maybe it was also unreasonable to think that a Major League Soccer team could keep that going in the world.
Well, you remember when the new stadium, the team in 2011, 12, 13, you had players going to the members club after every game, dancing with people and, having fun. And now, they're like, oh, they gotta take their health shake and do rehab. And,
they're making more money.
And the old players have to like be on the training table for an hour after each game.
One of my favorite, like, kind of old timey player stories was, and this is like a Sean Dane, Zach Cobb story, but I remember we were at Johnny's. We were watching the U.S. It was the night before a big U.S. game, and Graham Zusi happened to be around. And this is before Graham Zusi was part of the team. And he's like, "Hey, do you guys have is there like a ticket allotment for you guys for the game tomorrow?" And he was just kind of talking around it. And then at some point, Sean goes, "Graham, do you need a ticket for the game tomorrow?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Yeah, we got you, man. We'll take care of you." But that used to be like a thing in the world, watching, going on a road match and watching Jimmy Nielsen run around the corner and sneak in a smoke.
Yeah.
Like, those are some really golden days, and maybe it was naive to think we could keep that going forever. Maybe it's a failure. I don't have all the answers to that, but it is something I think about.
Jimmy smoking a heater.
Boom.
Love it.
Yeah, I don't know if those things could ever have continued no matter what the club tried to do right with that. And again, something needs to change for this club now. There's been you see the complaints about it being stale and Vermees out and Jake Reed out and et cetera. And I don't know the exact right answer for any of this. I'm never one that like, oh, coach has to go after a bad season or, depending on what their history is and stuff like that. But you can say now it's 2 bad seasons
Yeah, to speak to Cody earlier, you're like, how do I process this? How do I see this? I know right now for me, I'm more positive than I think the average fan that we can figure something out this season. But it's not really this season I'm worried about. It's like very overall, like, are we in the next 5 years, like, are we on a trajectory to be a successful Major League Soccer club?
Or get left behind.
Yeah, that I have serious concerns about.
And yes, I do too. And I guess that's why I look at Jake Reed, just because it seems like it's on such a higher scale. But
we don't want to be the Royals.
I don't want to be the Royals.
Yeah, because you're speaking of the Royals. I remember growing up, my old man we had like quarter season tickets. We used to go out there, and it was always a nice day. And I was little, I'd eat like ice cream and a Royals like hard hat thing. That was the thing. It was always like a nice day out there, and it was a beautiful park. You watched some baseball, and it wasn't like, oh no, the Royals lost. It was like, yeah, that's kind of how that goes. But
while you were talking, I got the smell of a ballpark. I could smell it while sitting here.
I'm not a baseball guy, but I have some good times out there.
Peanuts and popcorn and Cracker Jacks.
Well, so I guess that's a fine question. Kansas City is a small market, and as a Royals fan, you just accept that. Like, as a small market team, you have a window. You build up the youth system and invest there, and then at some point they all come together and you have a window to compete. You fill in the gaps with a few key signings, and you try to do that, and then after that you rebuild. Is that what we need? Is that something that we need to accept, that that's what Sporting can do, that we have brief windows that we can compete? Or do I need to accept that Sporting KC is no longer, in the next 5 years, just going to be like one of the better MLS teams as we've grown used to?
It's a very interesting question.
Is it even like I used to think it was different because we have the salary cap, and they're so big. The league itself is so big on parity. So that's why I used to think that was different. That like I know we're small market, we can't necessarily get all the big name players, but it just seemed like maybe the playing field was a bit more level. But now it just seemed like we were talking about it earlier. I find 4 guys on our team that I think are good enough, and everyone else just seems like they're not up to par.
And we would hope to compare it more to NFL, where there's a salary cap, and any well-run team can turn around and be good in a year or two, right? Not baseball, where it is such a small market versus big market kind of thing, and you got to only hope for those like brief glimpses, the windows and stuff. And I'm not a Royals fan, but they were able to do it twice, have 2 basically 3-year spans where they were good, and a couple of years here and there where they were okay. But the rest of it it's a 162 game season. We're going to go out and enjoy the day with our friends and family and drink beer and kids eat ice cream. And it's more of a social event than it is I passionately root for this thing. Mm-hmm. If sporting ever turns into that scenario, that would really suck.
Yeah, and also in this league, you can really sneak into those playoffs if you're in good form and really kind of steal an MLS Cup.
It's like
it's not like the Premiership where it's like
difference.
That's what the Galaxy used to do a lot. Was they would be very mediocre to bad in the first half of the season, and then a couple off-season or a couple mid-season signings, and all of a sudden they'd be really good. But this is not a sporting model where they're going to just have a couple of big mid-season signings, unless you go back to last year and it almost worked.
This is in parallel to your question. Something I think about is like who Sporting is within the rest of the league. Because let's just kind of go with the Sporting Kansas City era. Obviously Kansas City is a small market, but within MLS, I felt like we were a normal size market.
Yeah.
But now the league has outgrown us a little bit. It's not just Portland and Seattle that are big. Atlanta has 1 billion fans. There's a lot of people in Atlanta. It looks like St. Louis doesn't have a much bigger stadium than us, and there's a lot of bigger fan bases, and now we're kind of the small. Like I don't have any problem with us embracing the idea that we're small but mighty, and honestly, that kind of sounds fun.
Yeah.
Rather than like we are the kings of the league. It's like they still kind of got this thing. They still kind of push a narrative that talks about them being in a place of the league I just don't think they're at anymore.
Yeah.
And that can be a little frustrating messaging wise, but it will be interesting to see how we can establish ourselves. I do feel like they felt like the training center, it has been a great equalizer for them, or a way that they can steal players that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise, like a really good tool to grab players. And, and I'm sure that's helped a lot, but I'm not sure that's like the thing that can keep us going. I think it's probably just time to sign Messi.
There you go. Yes, that's what we need to do.
And also, how do we correlate all this with the attempt to sign Ronaldo?
I mean, I think we just need to sign them both and just have release some picture where it's like both of them like clasping hands, and biggest tweet that's ever existed.
Thad, when you were talking earlier, I put 2 things together there when you were talking about baseball and what you do at a baseball game.
Right.
And one baseball is really boring. So part of a baseball game, and you guys both did it. You mentioned going to a game, and so much of what you talked about had nothing to do with the game.
Right.
Because the games are so long, they're so boring, you walk around and you do all these other things. And that's not how you take in a soccer game. If you come watch Sporting KC, you're standing there, you're yelling at the field for 90 minutes, you're like part of this. If you're in the Cauldron, you really feel part of it with the team, you're in the trenches. And I guess maybe that's where the difference is. People are like really putting their heart and soul into it, and yeah, I think that's maybe a little bit of a difference there.
And if you don't have at least a certain percentage of those fans putting their heart and soul into 90 minutes of a game, you don't have a supporter culture. You don't have a good soccer fandom. If you have people coming out to have ice cream and burgers and whatever,
it's like I got a high five from Blue the dog.
Yeah.
That
I hate the fact there's a person there, because I do actually want to put a bullet in its head.
Whoa.
Ooh, and I thought Cody was bringing the heat. I mean, I do miss Hat Trick Harry, but that's a whole other podcast.
Oh, yeah.
But
oh man, I forgot about that.
That is interesting, because at the end of the day, perception is reality. You know, we are very involved. You know, we look at all sporting stuff, and we are very abnormal in regards to consuming and viewing sporting Kansas City.
And we're just abnormal.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's really no hope for any of us. But, you know, we're going to push through that. And because, you know, we can talk about reasons that some perception of sporting Kansas City may be unfair. We can ask, well, what do you want them to do? And I don't think that's that because of this. But at the end of the day, perception is reality. And if, just like you said, if a lot of like very dedicated fans are out, you know, no matter how unfair or fair or nitpicky we can be about their reasoning, that's the problem. If they're out, then they're out, and the reasons for it, you know, we gotta figure out and change things.
Yeah, I mean, even with like baseball, I grew up in St. Louis. I'm a Cardinals fan, and I know people are gonna like boo me for that, but piss off.
Yeah, we love you as you are.
But I grew up that way. I mean, I grew up legitimate fan. Okay, they've had really bad decades. They've had really good decades, but over the last, I don't know, 10 years, I've kind of become a lot more apathetic to them. I used to be, I would check the score every day. I would watch when I could. Actually, I almost never watched baseball. I was like, listen or go. That's really how baseball works. You want to listen to it on the radio or
fair.
Be there in person. It's not the event to actually like watch on TV. Where soccer games I watch on TV if I can't be there. It's just is a different thing. But anyway, I've been through that, but I've become a lot more apathetic about baseball in general. I just don't care about it as much. Like, I'll watch the score every once in a while, see how they're doing in the standings, but I just don't care. And we don't want that to happen here.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of other options to keep people's sports viewing. There's so many options, and that's one thing that's hard to explain soccer in America to people who aren't familiar or in the United States.
Right.
It's like, look, in other countries, it's soccer, and maybe there's a few other sports that are interesting. You know, I know there's some place in cricket is really big, but when you're in the United States, that pie is split so many different ways.
Yeah.
And that's if you don't have, that's not even including college sports, and it gets really crazy. So, and then with how big the Chiefs are, you know, it's never that we thought that Sporting was going to be bigger than the Chiefs. But if the Chiefs keep being, you know, one of the best teams of all time, and Sporting just keeps being like, look, man, we're really trying, but it's really tough out there, then that's a tough look. Because
if one of our sells is that the Chiefs quarterback is a very minor owner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is something I was thinking as well, because I think about when I watch Chiefs games and you see they're down 10, they have some drive. I'm like, look, they're just going to figure this out.
Yeah.
Some way, somehow, having that confidence. It's like, what is the opposite of that? It's what I feel lately. It's like, they're just not going to figure this out. They're going to have a chance. It's just that complete opposite feeling. And sometimes I'm thinking, oh, this is how people feel when Patrick Mahomes plays against them.
Right. Yeah, instead of knowing that Patrick is going to do a drive and win the game at the end, it's you're waiting for Sporting to give up a goal in the last 10 minutes.
So I'm going to bring it back a little bit, though, because I can only feel sorry for myself for so long. I do agree there is a lot of talent on this team. I think they can put it together. I think they could gel and have better interplay, a little better luck. They could start banging in goals. I tell you what, it's a momentum sport. Mm-hmm. You have a good game or two, and suddenly it's like, we got it back. We got it back. That is the kind of thing that can happen, and we are in the perfect league to have a slow start in.
Right.
Yeah, that's all very true. But one thing I noticed about
better.
What
that genuinely made me feel better. Thank you.
He needed to be a contrarian to the contrarian now.
No, and that's why I wanted to say thank you before Thad brought it back down.
One thing I noticed is you said they can do this, they could do this, they might do this, not will do this. You don't even have that faith there, Mr. Confidence Man.
Look, I don't have the power to predict the future. I'm a very interesting guy, but I don't, I can't say 100%. They might not, but
hey, there's still some optimism at this table
because there is an idea. I think there is an idea that I honestly reject, that they just are just a really bad team that can't do anything. And I think they have been a really bad team. They have played a really bad team, but I'm not convinced that's completely going to be their story this year. We'll see, though.
And I'm not actually disagreeing with you, but it's like for a while I would have had the confidence to say they will be better.
Yeah, it's a matter of time. Like it'll reverse to the average or to the mean, and they'll get it figured out. And that's not, that is a different message than what I just did. That's true.
I just don't have that confidence and faith today. Maybe give me a little while. Maybe I will.
Okay, you'll get a little fresh air, a little spring energy in you, and then, the sun will come out. It'll be 100 degrees, and we're at that stadium, and we just, want to die. I look forward to that.
And then we'll all be angry at each other because it's too hot.
Because it's too hot.
The holidays are a time to feel and create joy. And what could be more joyous than the look on her face as she unwraps a stunning new jewelry piece from Blue Nile? How about getting 50% off your purchase? Blue Nile offers premium quality, priced below traditional retail. Their online experts are available 24/7 to answer any questions and make sure you've picked the perfect gift. For a limited time, you can get 50% off at BlueNile.com. That's 50% off at BlueNile.com.
I gotta go. I might go watch SKC2 today and hope that they bring a win. But
okay, this is another thing. This is something you know more of. I feel like every time I look at SKC2 scores, they've always lost.
It does seem like that.
Almost every time. Is that just me? Like, am I just remembering certain things or forgetting certain things, or do those guys always lose?
they have not been really good for the last 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years. Is Fehlhaber still coach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he was coach last year and then this year. And this was the first seasons of MLS Next Pro when they really dropped the level of in the pyramid.
Gotcha.
And then also remember, the point of that team isn't necessarily to win.
Absolutely.
But yes, I agree with you.
They helped develop guys like Felipe and Jake Davis.
Is there somebody I should be excited about on SKC2 right now?
Oh no.
It's a really good question, and I think it's a little early to tell on that.
Yeah,
they have players that have that potential. And last year, I actually asked Fehlhaber this last a couple weeks ago, but why was this team going to be better than last year? And the previous year they basically were able to start in like January of trying to put that team together. And they were basically grabbing guys who might have potential, and this year they were able to start last year, like as that season was wrapping up, they were able to start finding guys. They had those guys that might have that potential to go up, and they'll always say we don't sign people that don't have potential to go to the first team. Well, that's maybe true if they become an amazing flash, but there's several guys that have some potential to do that. They're a
Sounds
left
like
back
a no to me.
left wing.
Sounds like you're convincing yourself a little bit here.
Well, I hate to say yes until I see more of them. I mean, a couple of those guys made me optimistic, but not like, oh, hey, they need to be signed to the first team now. It's like,
and they play their home games in Lawrence, right?
Majority of them, I think last year, all but 4 were played in Lawrence.
Gotcha.
Western Swope, I think this year's all but 2. So yeah, it's a long ass drive, which is why I won't go to as many of them. But some of them are on Apple TV, so you can watch them. This one this afternoon
I did
is on
notice
Apple,
that. Very cool.
but no replay, so you have to watch it live. They will have replays at some point, but you'll have to watch it live. So I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to go all the way to Lawrence for that today or not.
Speaking of things being broadcasted, U.S. Open Cup is coming up.
Yeah.
We're playing against Tulsa, and it is not.
It is literally not being broadcast anywhere?
Right.
That's my understanding.
Wow, I didn't
least
know
at this
that.
point.
I missed that.
Yeah.
Because it's not owned by, it's not an MLS game, it's a U.S. soccer game, and they are going to be broadcast where the ones that they choose. And
so I don't need to be worried about that for later rounds. It sounds like those will probably be on ESPN, I imagine.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
They'll figure that out.
If we go deep in that tournament.
If they lose to Tulsa Athletic, man, I might join the Vermees out crowd.
That'd be bad.
But
that's not going to happen. You know what?
Here we go.
Right here and
high
now,
note, baby.
The Zach guarantee. Sporting Kansas City, we're going to beat the hell out of Tulsa. And I'm very much looking forward to it.
Bold statement.
It's really not.
And that will probably be the end of the bench guys and some call-ups from the 2 team.
Yeah.
So we are going to wrap up here. If you missed Thad and I's interview with Daniel Shallowy last week, go check that out.
And one highlight of that is when I asked if anybody, because like one of those knocks on Vermees is like he doesn't care about winning anymore. He's got a 5-year contract. I asked Shallowy, does anybody care about winning more than Peter?
He said Johnny.
Yeah.
He goes, I don't know, maybe Johnny.
Wow. Yeah, that was a funny thing. I remember talking about that on Twitter. I was like, look, you guys can be frustrated that we're not playing well. You can be frustrated with the coach, whatever. But like the idea that Peter Vermees doesn't care about losing, I was like, that's just a silly thing.
Yeah.
I've watched him cheat in like little soccer tennis games, man, because he cares about winning.
He's totally that guy. I love it.
Thad, the thing I thought was interesting from that interview was when you asked him about Eric Tommy. You know, we've been talking about that relationship and if Tommy's kind of hurting Shallowy's success. And he talked for a really long time, kind of started rambling a little bit. And I think there was something there. I think you touched on something. I think he's frustrated with Tommy.
He didn't want to say that though.
Right, because he literally wasn't saying his name. He was speaking like to a general, like all of us or something like that.
I think I forget exactly how he said it, but at first he like no, but then he kind of talked back into it more.
Yeah,
I do think that's one of the issues that they're having is Tommy and him occupy that same space a lot.
And I was watching the game here before we started, and there was one play, Tommy had a bad pass, and you could see Peter throw his hands up in frustration. And then there was another one, Tommy had another bad pass, and Johnny and Shallowy both were showing their frustration. So I am very annoyed with Eric Tommy.
And it's amazing because as good as he was last year, he has been, I don't want to say bad because he's done some still good things.
The last two games he's been bad.
But it's been that he was asked that question last night about, are you over, is the team overthinking it and stuff like that. And I'll have to write something up about that or put that audio into another pod because I don't think we got time for it now, but he talked about how, it might be overthinking, it might be lack of confidence and all that. But that's for everybody. If they don't play Tommy right now, you're talking who do you play there until Radoya is healthy at the 6th, and then you can move Voltaire up, or Gotti Kenda is healthy, which he's getting closer.
So yeah,
look at our boy Cody's. I think we need to take him out for ice cream or something.
Hey,
I think we need to do so. Oh, and congratulations to both of you on the Kansas City Soccer Journal. I love the name.
Thank you.
Reestablishing ourselves, keeping it going. I love to see that.
Yeah,
love to be a very 0.5% part of it. I like coming here. So
there we go.
0.5%. We appreciate all the support and all the retweets and stuff that you guys do. And
absolutely,
it was a hard moment to leave the Blue Testament. Actually, which and honestly,
not for me.
It's interesting. I actually just got control of the Blue Testament domain name. So at one point I'm going to redirect that to Kansas City Soccer Journal. Yeah. But once I do, that means that everything that the Blue Testament won't be accessible anymore.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm actually looking for old episodes of Kick the Ball, and I can't find them anywhere.
Oh, really?
I'm going to have to bother James Starda, because something made me think about it. I thought it'd be interesting just to listen to one, because it's such a different time in the world.
Different era. Kick the Ball podcast.
I know. I'm one that doesn't listen to rival podcasts much, but you guys had such good, interesting views, which is why we like having you on.
Yeah, it was a fun.
I don't think we should ever invite James on though. What do you think?
They were that was in the era that was the only podcast.
Yeah, it was an interesting, and I was in such a different place in my life. They're like, Zach just slept through the whole episode. He's not even here. It's kind of funny to think about, but those were golden times too.
Okay. Go check out that interview with Shallowy. We'll try to be back this week with another one.
Did I derail you from an ending again? Is that what happened there?
I kind of derailed myself because I started talking about Eric Tommy. But we'll try to get another interview for you guys this week, and we'll be back again next week.
Hang in there, sports fans.
We will, and we might have something interesting in between too. Who knows?
Sporting.
Either side don't seem so tough. And 3 own goals ain't all that rough. Our skipper has just been sent off. Supporters strong and all gone soft. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. team's got me drinking. Give me beer or whiskey, wine or gin, anything to shake this mood I'm in. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking.